Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Liberal White Dudes. I am Andrew, and we are Liberal White Dudes. Today's episode is called Fairness, so we'll talk a little bit about the Fairness Doctrine. And if you guys did not see the My Pillow guy on Newsmax, we've got a copy of that interview on our Twitter, but it is just Looney Tunes. It was even too Looney Tunes for Newsmax.
Unbelievable. Yeah. The Newsmax guy was at his limit, like at his total end. That's saying something considering the situation. But even Newsmax guy was like trying to draw a hard line. Yeah. Like it was loony.
Mike,
it was bananas.
Can we, and he's like just like begging his producer, can we stop this interview? Can we not have, maybe we should have never had on the My Pillow. Yeah, you never should have. You might be the worst.
No one should.
Yeah, possible. I mean, they compete with AON with being like the worst news organization.
Can you believe I just wanted to tag one thing on the end of that. Can you believe that dude was in the Oval Office? Like, doesn't that piss you off?
Yeah.
Like, even though Trump was a piece of shit president and should have never been there in the first place, like the office is still sacred. The office of the presidency is still sacred. And it bothers the shit out of me that the My Pillow guy had an audience with the president of the United States in the Oval Office. Like, it's ridiculous when you listen to this guy talk. Yeah. Like, that's insanity.
The country is being run by morons.
Unbelievable.
Ignoramuses. Not just people who didn't have the same political views as me. Not just people who, like Mitch McConnell, as an example, not an idiot. But the entire administration that just left. Morons. I mean, morons. Can't say it enough.
My gosh, yes.
So
unbelievable.
Other morons
at least they're advised by people who are also morons.
So there's that continuity there.
Yeah, at least there's a continuity. It's a good word for it.
But check out that video on our Twitter. It's surreal. It's bananas.
And I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's great.
Another piece of news: Jeff Bezos has stepped down as CEO of Amazon.
Yeah, I've read some things that says that's a bit of a lateral move. What do you think? Like, there's really not much to that. He'll still be something of a executive chair or something, and still basically pulling the strings. Someone said it was like, this is kind of non-news. In a way, it's kind of more it's more optics than anything, I guess. I'm not sure why, but
yeah, he just wants somebody else to answer the CEO questions. Maybe even somebody else to field the investor calls or whatever. He's got like hundreds of billions of dollars to go spend. So
he
made a bunch of it during the pandemic. So there's that.
Yeah. Seems like go spend some money.
Yeah, can buy his private island and not let anybody go there who might be infectious.
Yeah, go get divorced again. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever he does, whatever Bezos does in his spare
Bezos.
time.
I don't know. I don't know.
We fully support Jeff Bezos. Into all my Alexa-enabled devices.
Yeah, right.
Well, that was I guess that was like an unfair dig. I don't know why I said that.
Licks in on Jeff Bezos.
Last but not least, SpaceX had another boom boom.
Oh dear!
Second rocket to just explode. Who's going to be on the first manned flight? Like, are you going to be that guy?
Yeah, it seems like
it seems safe
a little
now.
time for that.
It seems like it should be Elon Musk, but universal justice would dictate it should be him.
Yeah. Test this out.
Seems fine. It's got to be him at this point. Like, no one else should have to do that.
No, I mean, catastrophic. I mean, granted, NASA's been going for quite a while, and they had their share of failures early on. But can't he hire some of those folks? I mean,
seems like maybe, right? I mean,
probably not any genius Nazis left.
No, not too many.
Know your history.
NASA Nazi.
Yeah. Fairness. So the Fairness Doctrine, for those that are not aware, and I'm going to read a little bit of it off of Wikipedia just to make sure I get the wording correct. But basically, it was an FCC thing introduced in 1949. Basically, the idea was that controversial issues of public importance would only be broadcast in an honest, equitable, and balanced way. So you would have two sides, basically, of anything that was controversial. If you were going to talk about abortion, you'd have an abortion, pro-abortion, absolutely lots of abortion person. And then you'd have an anti, maybe less abortion type person.
Maybe slightly less.
Discuss abortion.
As those are the two sides. It's
you have
either
to take a shot every
those
time
are the
they
two
say
sides.
abortion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was basically the idea. Required broadcasters devote some of their airtime discussing controversial matters of public interest, but then also contrasting views regarding those matters. So just sort of an idea that it wasn't a one-way shout fest like it is today. And they kind of did away with it in 1987. Reagan did that. So now they can just have one-way shout fests.
That's on brand.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, literally everybody. You don't get fair and balanced from, CNN or MSNBC. It is all just one side of any given issue.
Yeah. You don't have your old huffy Republican dude to defend.
I think there's I would just like to give a small shout out. Certainly they're not sponsors, but I think public radio does its best. If there was one radio that tries, I think it would be public radio. Yeah. But even then you get a lot of bias.
NPR specifically, but they're certainly left-leaning, and you get sort of a left glean. But they'll have Republican folks on there to talk about their talking points and that kind of thing. It's not like they just wall out people who have a differing opinion on any given subject. So yeah.
But all major networks, 100%.
Yeah.
Just 100 across the board.
Just threw that right in the trash. So we've become more polarized because of the, no longer having to do that. Basically, now we all live in our sort of bubbles where people talk about things we agree with. We never spend any time thinking about maybe the other side of that coin or that argument.
Sure.
The reason I wanted to talk about fairness, though, not just the Fairness Doctrine, but sort of fairness in general, I think a lot of the issues that we're seeing push for liberal, the liberal agenda, as it were, is related to fairness. One of the reasons that the Senate committees the Democratic Senate committee heads have still not been sat, unless that happened today and I didn't hear about it, is because Mitch McConnell is concerned that it won't be fair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, why is that something he's allowed to do? It doesn't make any sense. You lost. Your job this is not your job anymore.
Yeah.
We have different people to do this job now.
So every Senate has a power sharing agreement, and they basically agree on how they're going to share the power of the Senate, which means, certain things. And it's a long discussion, and there's all kinds of nuance as far as how they're going to share it with the minority party. But he basically wanted in writing that Democrats weren't going to get rid of the filibuster because he wants to be able to throw sand in the gears of democracy anytime he disagrees with something that Biden and company are trying to do. He sees it as not fair for a Democratic Congress, a Democratic House of Representatives, Democratic Senate, and Democratic President to pursue a Democratic agenda.
Yeah. Apparently that's just out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because it's so strange to me too that it's like that. Really, it's unfair to you if we remove the system by which you can slow and gum the process. Because what does that mean about you? What does that mean about your function in our government? If your whole bag is that.
I also just think about what they would say if the shoe was on the other foot, which would be cry more.
Yeah,
I think would be there. I honestly believe would be there. And I'm not talking weird like idiots in their basements online. I'm talking like green margarine. I'm talking like people that hold office would be like on Twitter being like, cry more. Sorry.
Yeah.
Fairness. It would be, I guarantee you. That's what it would
nobody, in my opinion, is more snowflakey than like neo-Nazis and like super alt-right folks. especially for
Agreed.
this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is one of the things about being a liberal is that the whole reason you're a liberal is because of your empathy. You know, you
Right.
have empathy for other folks, and it really does you a disservice in government when you should be railroading the assholes. Like,
Yeah.
just spend a little time railroading the, put Mitch
Yeah.
in his place.
Yeah.
I mean, take control of the Senate, take the reins, and tell Mitch where he sits. Move, Mitch, get out the way.
Start that hashtag tonight on Twitter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's complaining that
Mitch, please.
it's not fair.
Cry
Another thing
more.
about fairness, every single one of the Democratic agenda items. So, as an example, student loans, student debt forgiveness. It's one of the things on the table. Most of the arguments I've read against that are like, well, it's not fair to people who've already paid theirs off. It's not fair to people who didn't take out loans and just paid for their school.
It's
worked hard to
not
do
fair
that.
to the people that have already died of cancer to give people chemo. Like, that's not fair.
I
They
agree.
didn't get the
Because
chemo.
they didn't get the chemo either.
They
But
couldn't afford the chemo, so why does he get the chemo?
Yeah.
That's what that argument sounds like to me. It's
I
like, they
mean-
don't deserve help. I didn't get help. It's like, yeah, that's what progress means. Maybe
Yeah.
you
It
guys
means
didn't
that
get the
people
help,
later do.
but we should start helping those people. People
Yeah.
like you. You should have got help and you didn't. This is progress. That's what that's
Yeah.
all that means to me.
you should. This is the thing too, is that you should have. It's not that like
Yeah,
you
you
should
should
have gotten that help.
I saw an interesting post where someone had, and this may have been circulating a while ago, who knows, but someone had posted something where they were just like, they want to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That comes out to, $30-something thousand a year. That's what a teacher in Texas makes. So basically you're saying someone who works a minimum wage job should make as much as someone who has a college degree. And then immediately someone underneath was like, isn't it strange how every time this argument comes up, they're not saying, the argument isn't teachers should get paid more.
Yeah.
It's always people shouldn't make that as much as that. Like, it's like, why is that not the argument?
Yeah,
Like,
I
so many- there's so
agree
many
that
results
people
here.
working at McDonald's shouldn't make as much as a teacher. However, if in order to keep up with inflation
Right.
and productivity and all those things, minimum wage needs to rise. That's just
Yeah.
fact. And if we surpass with the minimum wage what teachers are making, then yeah,
yeah.
Teachers
It's just
should
like,
make
wow,
more
this
money.
this post
teachers
sounds more
aren't
like an
getting paid
argument.
enough.
Like, this sounds like more of an argument for paying teachers more, not why we shouldn't raise a minimum
Yeah.
wage.
Because it's like what a weird
teachers
place to
shouldn't
come
be
at that
making
from.
minimum wage.
Like, I don't make enough money, so you can't make as much money as me because I don't make enough money already, and I had to like do more
Right.
to get this job. It's like, shouldn't you be going into conversations about your wage? Like, shouldn't like let's like that.
Right. I always find
if
those
that's what your
conversations
concern is.
when they evolve that direction to be so entertaining, when it's just like, I
Yeah.
agree with you, sir. I think you should get more money too.
Yeah.
Yes,
And then they're
I
like,
think that
That's
person
not
should
what-
get more money. I think McDonald's
Like,
workers
what-
should get more money. I think you
wait.
should get more money. I think we should
Yeah.
get more money. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, despite your racism, I think you should also earn more money. Clearly, I understand your motivations are racist. However, we are in agreement that you don't make enough money.
Yeah.
That's another fairness thing. There's a lot of people who are like,
Yeah.
I started at $10 an hour with my college degree, and I've worked very hard for the last 5 years, and I've been, employee of the month 12 times, and I'm finally making $14 an hour. And now you're telling me
Right.
that all of that work that I've done goes right in the bin.
I just can't tell why people are so driven by spite. That's the point. This is the point. The fact that you had to do that sucks, and it's not a livable way of doing things. So we're changing that for more people. What? Like, I just don't understand where that like thought process comes from. It feels so like. It feels like so self-centered and like get out of your own head about this.
Because it is.
Yeah. it
Yeah,
is.
just
'Cause-
focus on
'cause it
like
is.
what actually like. Did that suck? Oh, that sucked. So it shouldn't be that way. That's what we're
They're
doing
like, no,
is
that's what
making it
life
different.
is. Life isn't fair. It sucks, and it should suck
Right.
for everyone. That is
Yeah,
the
So
argument.
disagree.
The bootstraps argument. And it's
Yeah.
The
just like,
bootstraps. Also, the reason that saying, the pull yourself up by your bootstraps, is so like ridiculous is because you can't. like you can't, because like your boots are under you. If you're standing on your bootstraps, you can't do that. So it's not a real thing. That's not even a real thing you can do.
Your generation and not pulling yourself up. By
Yeah,
your
it's not even like physically possible.
Jared, you would know
Back in my day.
how to pull. Yeah, you'd know how to pull yourself out of your bootstraps if you ever had to pull yourself up by
Yeah,
your
I guess
bootstraps.
that's what it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
but no, that whole argument is ridiculous. It's it's like, so like you said, you're basically saying your life was super shitty and unfair, and therefore it should be that way for everyone going forward. It's like, come on.
That's the only
dude.
way that they can, you get in a huge line for a movie premiere, right? And there's like 700 people in front of you or whatever. You figure you still get tickets, but you feel better about your place in line if there's 700 people behind you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're the last guy in that line, you're like, this is dumb. It sucks to be where I am in line. But you put 700 people behind you, and all of a sudden it's like, I've got a pretty good spot here mid-line,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically,
I just feel like if
you're here, and minimum wage workers are here, and we're just gonna move them up here, and you're like, well, now I'm at the back of the line, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, it's like if I could like say I get to the front of that line, and then they're like, hey, you can make this line move faster. If you say yes to this, we will hire more employees to make this go faster. I'd be like, yeah. Because that's
well, I was going to say,
like for you.
I don't care if it's faster for me. That's not the point.
Well, I was going to say, that's when I come in with my hippie democratic socialist views and be like, dude, there is no line. That's the thing. Yeah. You're seeing it the wrong way. And then that's when I'm like, get out of here, soy boy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it.
That's
you
fair.
Look at the line and it like bends to the left. Something like that. Right. There is no line.
There is no line.
Exactly.
There's no reference for all those nerds out there.
I got that.
Yeah, it's worse when I explain it.
I got it. I got it immediately.
Additional fairness thing is the vaccine. It's another thing where fairness has really come into play as far as, is it fair that Marco Rubio got it before me? And me being literally any other American.
Any person, yeah.
Any person.
How about
other than
for
Marco
starters,
Rubio?
Anybody that didn't contribute to this crisis?
Yeah.
For starters, maybe not anybody like that.
Yeah.
Like, let alone, that it's Marco Rubio, and, it obviously shows the disparity between him and like regular Joes, but especially a guy like that, who was part of the problem, not the solution.
They're talking about vaccinating a lot of old people, and but they still have people who are serving those old people who are not vaccinated. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Where's my fair spot in the line?
I guess I'm just so not like. I think people are just far too worried about that. I'm gonna be honest. I think I think fairness is important in an overarching sense, but for stuff like this, like it's a vaccine that's supposed to save people's lives. There is everyone needs to get it, so let's just get it to everyone. It doesn't matter who. Like I feel like it doesn't really matter that much who gets it first. I think that the government will consult with people who know better. And they'll say, "Hey, this is where we should hit first," and then just do that in that order. Just so that,
well, that's certainly what they're
stopping the spread.
That's what they're trying to do. That's the thing, though. That's the argument, is that people are saying, "Well, who decides that? Who's getting to decide who gets to the front of the line?"
Virologists, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but it's not entirely. I mean, there was a news story that came out that. There were people going to a lower income sort of high risk area and getting the vaccine when they didn't live there. They put a racial spin on the article. They were like, white people are driving into a Latino neighborhood to get the vaccine. Which is
on brand.
Yeah, but it's also like, I mean, is the racial thing there, or is it more?
Well, I think that it's a component only because the numbers also prove that there is also there is a racial component to the effects of this. So,
it's more
in terms of
class. I mean,
right, exactly.
That falls along the same lines, right?
Again, but it's it's just because the issue has grown into that, unfortunately, because it is so tied closely to that, and there's so much systemic racism woven into the class issue in our country to begin with, that I think it's a factor. It is a component. It's something that speaks to people in those communities that are like, we're already marginalized. This is already affecting us in a disproportionate way. It does matter to some readers that these folks are white. Kind of like it does,
yeah. I mean,
and I think that's a factor there.
Rich people driving into, like, there was the people in Canada who drove to the res and pretended to be on the res to get the vaccine.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's
like, that's not cool.
No. Oh my God. Can you imagine being the type of asshole that does that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, if you're non-white, you're more likely to be an essential worker or a frontline worker. More likely to have been exposed to COVID-19 during the pandemic. So yeah, disproportionately hitting those folks, which sucks. And should shine a spotlight on, again, the inequities of our culture based around race.
Right.
But I mean, I think rich people are flying in and driving in to any neighborhood that they think is just given free vaccine regardless of race.
I certainly don't think that the perpetrators had racial, it was not racially motivated. I'm just saying that I think those communities see that as a facet to it. It's not just rich people. It's rich white people coming into a community of primarily people of color. It's just one more component to that. And I think it is a factor to some people.
How come the bridge and tunnel crowd are getting the vaccine?
Yeah, right.
Get it up here in Manhattan proper. These New Yorkers know what I'm talking about.
Hey-o. I'm not a New Yorker, but I watched a lot of Seinfeld in my life, so.
So there was an interesting study, and I think I've mentioned this before, but only sort of like in passing. There was an interesting study between monkeys, where basically they had these two monkeys, and they were giving each one a cucumber, and the monkeys were like eating the cucumber, like they do. And then they started giving the one monkey a cucumber, and he eats it, and they give the other monkey a grape, and he eats it, and it's like awesome, right? So you give the other monkey a cucumber again, and they give the other monkey a grape. And then, like, the third time they give the other monkey a cucumber, he's like, ugh! Just totally rages because he's not getting any grapes, and he's, like, bending the bars and trying to get to the grapes. It's really, like, a fascinating study in fairness.
Monkey brain.
I mean, just when you see somebody else, you were totally fine with cucumbers when all you saw were cucumbers.
Man, yeah, absolutely.
But once they introduce grapes, you're just like, hey, this isn't fair.
Well, doesn't that also speak to that's so inherent in us as animals? Because with like you said, that's just a very basic example of it. But you can see how emotionally and like charged it got up, and like how it affected them. And it's just like that's still a basic instinct that's in us, if you want to see it that way. Like where it's like you see someone else succeeding where you're not, or you see getting or achieving where you're not, and you feel entitled because I'm a monkey too. Why does that monkey? We're the same. We're both monkeys. Why is he getting the grapes?
Yeah.
So
Steven Crowder over there getting grapes.
Right.
LWD
and we're
getting damn cucumbers.
Nothing but cucumbers.
Hey, you can't complain on a show where you spent 10 minutes fiddling with your audio, Andrew.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
we don't really get to complain too much about our audience size in this episode.
And the thing to me too is that it expands for me, right? It goes from that sort of naturalistic point to the applications of that to human behavior in sociological way, because to me, I think humans, because of our ability to empathize, and I'm not sure how complex empathy is in monkeys because there's no way to know, but I think that there's with a societal contract like we have, if he started getting grapes but I knew that he needed them more than me, that wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
Really,
think
like,
monkeys
yeah.
see that nuance.
I don't think monkeys see that. I don't think monkeys see the nuance of that.
Yeah.
But I
Right.
think I think it's strange that also people don't always.
Yes. People don't ever.
That
Right.
it seems
people, that people act like monkeys for some reason about, like healthcare or like, it's so
Yeah.
bizarre to me.
like, hey,
Or
I would-
minimum
monkeys.
wage.
Yeah, and I will say that every place that I've ever worked, if you found out that so and so the idiot was making $10,000 more a year than you were, that's infuriating.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Right.
this salary that you've been working for 3 years, all of a sudden seems like cucumbers.
Yeah.
When
Right.
you find out that, should I name names right now?
Dropping name bombs out here.
Yeah, is making $20,000, $30,000 more a year than you are.
Well, I think it's certainly different if you're, an employee and it's a personal thing. Someone at your company that you find out is making more, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. But to see it as like more of like a blanket policy where it's like, hey, can we all agree that the minimum wage is not a livable wage and that should be increased? And it's like anybody to step up at this point and say, no, I don't agree with that, is lying. That's stupid.
Yeah.
There's
poverty.
nobody that can logically say, it's a poverty wage. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like nobody agrees that that's a livable wage. So it's just like you were saying earlier, Jared, it's just, there's that selfishness where it's just like, you're so upset at the thought of someone else immediately making as much as, like you said, maybe you've worked hard for years to make. And it's like, rather than acknowledging the other side of that, dude, that's a shitty system. Like we were saying earlier, you should have been making more all along.
Yeah.
We're sorry about that.
Yeah, it
This is the
can
point,
be more
man.
fair for everyone, better for everyone.
Right.
And
Isn't
that's
that
the
what
reason
we
that
want as a society,
Yeah.
as a community? Like you all pretend to do that when you're in church, when you're in your church groups and your small groups and you're reading your Bibles. You're all saying how you care so much about your stupid communities. And then when you get the opportunity to help everyone in your communities, like, well, I can't do that because that really, really contradicts with the racism buried deep inside my soul. It's like, oh yeah, well, duh.
And also,
Forgot
I feel like
about
that's
that.
unfair because I can't really wrap my head around that line of thinking, that like, well, I like had to. So why
What you're
doesn't
saying,
everyone
it's just
have
like,
to?
it's unfair. It's like what we're saying.
Yeah.
Fairness. Like, well, that's not fair. I had to do it.
Yeah.
So it's
We're
not
changing
You're
it.
fair.
not
That's the
the
reason
point
we're
in your life
changing
where
it.
you have decades behind you where you worked really hard, Jared. So that's probably fine.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that like if you can change that for an entire society so that people don't have to live that terrible drudge. Like why wouldn't we?
grandparents' day, you could have a regular job and buy a house and raise a family.
Yeah.
And, my grandfather put,
you could
a
be
ton
stored.
of people through, all his kids through college and all that kind of thing
Yeah.
on one salary,
Yeah.
He had a specialized job, but it's not like people in regular jobs weren't buying homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea to millennials of buying homes, they're like, what? How does one accomplish that?
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, that's one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, especially with all this stuff going on and with my college stuff. But it's like I don't know, like the odds that I do end up buying a house are very low. Just like ever.
They're kind of like my odds of being able to retire.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. It's
Slim to none.
Thing. It's not a thing that like is possible anymore for the most part, just because of the way that our financial system works.
Hopefully in the next 2 years, Biden's administration and the House and the Senate can reignite the American dream, because the American dream is not to be an idiot and fail up and have gold gilded everything while you borrow money from everyone who will loan it to you and run every successful business into the ground while fires burn around you in the deep pit of hell.
Yeah, it's not the American dream.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know.
For some it is, but it shouldn't be. No.
Yeah.
All right, so fairness. I'm not sure we came to a conclusion about whether fairness is good or bad. It does seem innate,
Yeah, I think for me, fairness, it's important to be fair, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge that some changes that we make will be unfair.
I
Because
guess
that's
I think
just how it works.
Yeah. I feel like part of that is taking the long view. I mean, the definition of what's fair is a spectrum, right? What's fair in this instance is different than what's fair in that instance. Fairness to some people could be exactly what the system is now, which is like, I had a shitty life, so you should too. That's what's fair. Other people would say, well, no, what would really be fair is changing our society in a way that works best for everyone in our community. Then everything's actually fair. So when you talk about what's fair, it's like, well, who are we talking about? So you have
what's
to
the longevity of that fairness?
Yeah. I mean, the
and
system
I
is
like to take the
currently-
bigger view.
Yeah, the system is currently unfair. We're historically unfair to people of color, to women, to, pretty much anybody other than the folks that are on this show. Historically
Agreed.
unfair.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter that I'm fat. Nobody cares. The world still treats me great. So
Agreed,
I mean, we got some fairness to catch up on, and I'm someone who is very, very. I have a strong sense of fair.
Yes.
When I play games, like I want it to be fair. If you're playing like a game of chance, let's say poker, as an example. If it's the third damn time you've lost in Texas Hold'em, you've lost on the last card. And it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you lose on the river, but most of the people watching the show don't know what I'm talking about anyway.
Right.
The fifth community card. You lose, 3 times in a row on that card. So you've played the hand the best you can and just continue to lose. It seems unfair, even though it's just statistics and it's working itself out. Eventually you're going to lose 3 times in a row that way if you play enough poker. But it seems unfair. So
yeah, it's a good point.
Strong sense of fairness, but also acknowledge that the world is a statistical anomaly and there's chaos out there, and let's just all try and do our best. I give 5 out of 5 figs for fairness.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I'll go 4.
Definitely.
I think I have to pull one just because people's over self-centered, inflated sense of fairness that
And we don't want it
stops
to
them
be
from being idiots.
on par with Star Wars. If you're comparing fairness and Star Wars.
Yeah, fairness and Star Wars. those don't equate.
Like you do. I also like to give a quick apology to AOC.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Could not have her on the show to talk about fairness. And speaking of which, there was a news story about her recently. She discussed on her Instagram Live her harrowing situation during the January 6th insurrection. You should go give it a watch, give it a listen. It is kind of crazy.
Yeah, sure is.
I don't want to say any more about it than that, but that's nuts. I mean, she felt like she was going to die. And everyone who was in there who was a Congress member should have felt that same way, unless they were in direct contact with the folks that were breaking in.
Exactly right.
So,
which some of them were, by the way.
Some of them were.
Yeah, some of them were.
Know.
So,
I mean, we're in February. I don't know what's going on.
Right. I don't.
People are still in Congress. They're still in the Senate.
Green Margarine's still out there doing her job.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will continue to say this. What's going on?
What's going on?
So somebody figure it
out. Thank you. Get back to us as soon as you can. Hit us up on Twitter, whatever.
Yeah.
What's going on,
subscribe
please.
to us here on YouTube. Like our video, but then also go over to Facebook and like our page. And then you can follow us on Twitter, where we're GD Hilarious. We're here live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks, everybody. Liberal white dude.